No.
Yes. Right.
So you guys need an alignment, not coaching.
The coaching industry has exploded.
We want to be better. We want to move forward and keep growing.
Uncoachable is going to be released every single month with a new coach, a new idea, a new approach, and a new takeaway. Hi, I'm Jon.
I'm Rhys.
And he's uncoachable.
Oh, great. Let's start this podcast with the breathing
All right,
techniques.
so we're going to do the 5-5-7 breathing techniques. You're going to take a nice, and I'll go through it with you, but you're going to do a nice deep inhale through your nose for a count of 5. You're going to hold it for a count of 5, and then exhale through your mouth for a count of 7. So I'll count, and you breathe.
Okay.
Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you did that a little bit longer, that can calm your nervous system. The extra exhale really helps to activate your vagus nerve, which connects your brain to your nervous system. And when that's activated, it tells you you're safe and you're calm.
No.
And yeah.
My concern with doing breathing techniques is that I'm one of those people, I can just lie down and fall asleep.
Yeah.
I'm worried I'm going to start getting drowsy if I keep doing them. But that just shows how calming they are.
Yeah.
So back to his point, you are unique for us in the sense of you've got 2 skills. Well, no, you've got more than 2 skills, but we recognize there's an element around coaching for both health and for lifestyle or for life, I think,
Yeah,
right? So
that's right.
if you can sort of jump into both of those for us and give us a sense of what, a life coach is versus a health coach, would be a wonderful place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me. So I am dual certified, ICF, health and life coaching, and I blend the two in everything that I do. So I have clients I work one-on-one with in the area of life coaching. I sprinkle in kind of sneaky with the health coaching side because often when we are struggling in areas of our life, whether it's stress or whether it's anxiety or mindset, whatever it is, often a lot of that is exacerbated by our health, by the things that we're eating, by our lack of proper sleep, not taking care of ourselves. So I always incorporate the two. And if someone comes wanting health coaching, it's never as simple as, well, here's what you're going to eat and here's how you're going to move your body. Often you've got to peel away the layers, and there's a lot of life coaching that's involved with, well, where did those habits come from? Why did you start those? What are you focusing on that you can reframe in a more positive way that's going to help get you out of those bad habits? Right? Because we get on autopilot when we're doing, when we're going to the pantry or going to the fridge. We're on autopilot. And we're looking for comfort foods and things like that. It's not as base as I just feel like having chips or I feel like having ice cream. It comes from somewhere deeper. So in a 12-week program, and that's why a lot of other programs don't work. When it's a fitness program for 12 weeks, you're doing great, you're losing weight, you're getting in shape, and then you can kind of fall off afterwards because the connection between the mind and the body is not there. So I kind of help bring that out so that it's fully well-rounded. I mean, if you are in poor health, you can't focus on getting your life in order. And if your health is great, but you hate your job or you're thinking negative thoughts in a lot of other areas, the two always impact each other.
It's interesting because I think health for us is probably one of the last things that we're thinking about. As entrepreneurs, I think we started a business thinking, as the owners of the business, we eat last. And I'm so happy now that Rhys has sort of turned that around and probably eats first. But
What's that mean?
it gives us a real interesting balance that we talk about the health of the company. And having a conversation with you that talks a little bit about having health within the teams and having healthy workspaces and health around that allows us to achieve other things. It's one of the things that's I think, I don't know, I can't speak for Rhys, but it's on the back of my mind. It's deeper. I'll take the stairs to come up here, and that's my daily activity. For example, I don't take the elevator. So I'm curious, you had mentioned about habits and trying to change those habits. These are routines, and I don't know if you can speak a little bit about habit development?
Yeah. So the easiest habits to establish are the bad ones, the ones that give us that instant gratification, that gives us the hit of dopamine. So we kind of have to work first to identify what the habits are that you need to change. And in identifying that, for instance, if I'm working with someone and they're really focused on, like they need the life coaching, but they're also drinking like 6 Pepsis a day, and they're, sorry, Pepsi's not a sponsor, right?
Not anymore.
Unless they want to be. Like.
So they're drinking 6 sodas a day, and and they're eating junk food. So we first start to identify where the negative habits are first and work very slowly and gradually to undo some of those while sprinkling in some new habits. And, with coaching, we get very specific with a program. So I would, for instance, tailor a program around a person's specific needs. And so I would take it from there and decide what we're going to incorporate. So for the next week in between coaching sessions, there's 3 things I want you to do. And let's discuss the time of day you can do them so we can be consistent. Let's make sure you have capacity for doing them. And if we meet up in a week and something is just really not working for you, then we're going to pivot, right? Like there's no forcing anyone. If I get, I work with people all the time and they're like, if you're going to tell me to give up coffee, I'm out. And I'm like, I'll never tell you that, right? Funny enough, a lot of my clients end up quitting coffee anyway. I don't even recommend it. I drink coffee. I drink black coffee, right? So sometimes it's as base as getting people to give up the 5 creams, and to integrate, maybe we go with 2% milk and then we kind of wean off of the dairy completely. And so whatever it is, but the habits themselves, it's about moving gradually and slowly so that it's because too much too fast. And our brain is going to, figure out what's going on, and we automatically reject change. We're very resistant to it. Way back when, we needed consistency for survival. We were always in fight or flight if things were changing constantly. Our bodies are still the same as they were back then biologically. So it's important not to do too much too quickly. And then it's just about the structure, right? It's giving, okay, well, if this is your end goal, here's the first step. We're going to do this for the next 7 days. Let's check in. And then we're going to figure out 2 more things that we can do.
Sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I think I'm going to say the exact same thing that he's going to say. First, there was the dopamine chase conversation, which we've had before. The second thing is the time that it takes to get those results. So I make these micro changes, and I'm waiting for an immediate response or a quick change. Rhys and I we're not a hustle culture, but we are sprinters. We go relatively quickly at everything we do, and we're typically looking for a result in what we're doing, which makes it difficult for us to implement.
Well, I was going to say, I think I'm better than I used to be. So when I was in my early 20s, I was saying in my 20s and early 30s, and you talk about hustle culture, I had a very unhealthy work-life balance. So one of my boasts was I could work through the night and carry on working through the following day. Which I would do sometimes to finish projects, and would just eat fast food and would just, I was probably not getting a lot of steps in, but the output of my work was very high, but I didn't realize the impact I was having on my health until I got to my mid-30s, and I realized that kind of high performance, high delivery, and then boasting about being able to work through the night and everything, you realize that you kind of hit a wall, and for me it was high blood pressure, and also just generally being unhealthy, I think. So I've kind of started to open my mind and be a lot more and more conscious of putting steps in because I'm sat at a desk a lot. So being mobile, I don't drink alcohol anymore. I don't eat anywhere near as much fast food, but I've really struggled with those habits. And I think that it's hard as entrepreneurs and people in business sometimes because every day is different, and we thrive on that chaos in a lot of ways. And being habitual can be a real struggle. So yeah, I guess you must see that with clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's always a lot of shame around food as well. And it's not as simple as it being a bad habit that we're eating bad foods. Like, we're addicted to these foods. These foods were designed by really smart people to get you addicted.
Chocolate
and then we're
is my thing.
yeah, and then we're so mad at ourselves that we're continuing the cycle, like, oh, well, then Monday I'm going to start, and you mentioned about in your 20s, like, we can kind of get away with it to an extent when we have those young, youthful bodies that, the cells are constantly regenerating at a rapid pace. And as we get a little bit older, it does catch up. Like, I had that happen. I was always quite thin. So in my youth, I didn't associate poor health with how I looked. I associated it with being overweight. So I thought, I'm fine. I can eat the KFC for breakfast. I can drink all of the alcohol in my 20s. But it's not as simple as it being a bad habit. So I want people to kind of get away from the stigma of holding that shame that, like, why am I eating this again? Like, I said I wasn't going to do it.
The changing of behaviors is so difficult, especially if you separate the food and the health, the food and the activity. So back to Rhys talking about the steps and change of behavior, we actually have a step challenge in the office. And once we start to gamify certain behaviors, we start to do really well. So to me, it's sort of, I don't know if you can gamify nutrition. Right? I don't know. Maybe you can.
But to measure it, I guess. The steps were good because that instantly hacked my competitive nature. And I was like trying to get like 12,000 steps in a day, even though the target was 10 or whatever, just because I have that in me. And I think that like that can really help. But I think that, do you gamify it in any way with people?
I mean, you can, right? If you've got more than yourself involved, it can be as base as, you have a list of the really nasty foods, and those are off limits. So whoever breaks first kind of loses, right? Yeah. So, it's that processed food, it's the gluten, it's the dairy and all of those things, and sugar, refined sugar. So, if you have that list and each day someone can check off like, yep, got through the whole day, I didn't have any of this stuff. Because what it's also doing is it's making people read ingredients more and be more mindful. And then it does become habitual over time. So, the way I always look at it, when you do any kind of a fitness challenge or a nutrition challenge, like you win. You win either way, right? I mean, as long as you're putting your foot forward, and that's not to say, oh, crap, on the weekend I had a pizza, like, okay, you took a pause. That's not a setback. It's not, anything that's going to completely derail you, just you did it, forgive yourself, move on, and have something different next time, right? Because it's all a process. And we're striving for progress, not perfection all the time.
And like, is there do you have like anyone who has been really difficult to kind of like, you obviously there's like two elements of coaching that sometimes they're interlinked and they bleed into each other. Do you have any examples of like someone who was really difficult you had a breakthrough with, or like someone you were really proud of? You don't have to name them, but you're
Yeah. I'm not going to say anyone difficult because I do a really good job up front of fully assessing the person to make sure they're coachable.
Okay.
So no one who was resistant to it. Like, I can tell that in the first hour of a phone call, and then like, you know what? I don't think you're ready.
So are we ready? We're not ready, are we?
I haven't sat with you for an hour yet. Right. I'd have to do a full assessment. I need to know. The assessment includes knowing what you do from the moment your feet hit the floor in the morning to when you lay your head on the pillow at night. I need to know all of those details. What's habitual? What are you struggling with? And then I can formulate a plan from there and determine if you're going to be able to be coachable. Like, if I get someone, for instance, right out of the gate, they're like, I'm not doing this, or this. So if you can help me with the other things, and it's like, I don't think you're ready. Right? Because those things you named are crucial. They're crucial components. You don't have to give up everything or, and fully, right? It's about moderation at that point.
So you tie back sort of mental health, physical health, back to business outcomes at times.
Yeah.
What's that connection?
So formerly working in HR, I worked for, most recently for a large construction company. I saw a lot of struggle when I was in that role in terms of, either conflict or negative attitudes or negative thoughts, people eating junk food, like getting their takeout every day at lunch, and then in mid-afternoon, they're sluggish, they're falling asleep, like it's hard to concentrate. So I knew when I started coaching that I was eventually going to start working with teams as well. So now I pretty much half and half. I work one-on-one and I also work with teams. And so what I do there is, depending on what the company, tells me that they're struggling with, it would be putting together a workshop or a lunch and learn. I always have activities to do because I remember sitting in really boring lunch and learns and I was just there for the lunch, right? And so I wanted people to really take something away and have it actually resonate. So most recently, I've been doing quite a bit of mindset shift work with teams and doing a bit of traveling for that as well. The feedback...
What's mindset shift?
Mindset shift.
Yeah.
So, you cultivate over time one of two mindsets, and it's either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. So closed-minded, open-minded.
Yeah, just
right?
go, this is how I'm going to do this for the rest of my life versus should I do this for the rest of my life?
So with the fixed, you're likely to say like, I am who I am, right? Which I kind of like to, I picture that as a bit of a cop-out for bad behavior, well, that's just who I am,
right?
Or
I use that one all the time.
Or this is how we've always done things, right? And then the growth mindset is there another way that could possibly work better for us? Just having that open mind for all of the possibilities. I'm believing that you can grow, that you can learn, that you can change, and that you can adapt. So we really want to veer towards that growth mindset. And you're not born with one or the other. So if you are someone with a fixed mindset, you can change it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one am I, Jon, from your diagnosis?
Well, so here's the challenge. Both of us are challengers, and we're always trying to get better. We have a growth mindset, but we're also fixed in our position on a lot of things. It makes it difficult for us to accept inputs on what that direction or a change needs to be. But we are naturally always looking for improvement in everything we do, whether it's a creative execution, whether it's operational, whether it is just us. So we've got that growth mindset, but I think that may be applicable to maybe business and not mental health or not nutrition. I don't know. Yeah. So knowing you, I would say you've got a growth mindset. You can be better.
I don't think I'm perfect. Joking.
Right?
Do you ever meet people like that who are like, I don't need this. I'm practically perfect in every way, like Mary Poppins?
Yeah, I do. And I'm not going to argue with them, because if that's their belief, then that's your belief.
You don't want to shatter
there's not much that I can do there. Exactly. So in those few seconds, I'm going to assess, like, is anything I'm about to say going to land?
Yeah.
Are you going to be open to receiving it? Are you going to be ready to receive it? And if not, I'm not going to waste my breath.
Yeah.
Right.
And you mentioned as well, like, people like, I could totally identify with that feeling. You go, hey, I'm going to have some McDonald's. And then afterwards you go, why did I have McDonald's? I feel awful. Like, that must be hard to, especially like a HR setting, to have those conversations with people where you're kind of maybe saying, hey, maybe like work performance is related to diet. Mm-hmm. I can imagine that is thin like ice to walk on in some people because, it's personal and it's kind of, it's obviously helping them make healthier choices or understand behavior related to the lunch they're choosing. But like, how do you navigate that?
It is tough. So the companies I do work with, when they do lunch and learns, we typically collaborate on what food they're going to bring in advance. I certainly don't want to sit there and talk about all the negative effects of sugar while someone is mid-bite of a donut, right? I don't want to shame anybody in that moment. So it's collaborating with and meeting in the middle, right? Like I always say, like, I don't expect you to put celery and carrot sticks on the table, right? I mean, you could add that. But like, are there some healthier wraps that people would also enjoy that they don't typically choose because they're just, they're going through the drive-through or they're ordering the pizza or something. So, but again, it goes back to helping people understand why. So I don't just say like, don't eat these foods because they're bad for you and they're going to make you tired. It's like, what are these foods actually doing to your body? And what is the impact of that? And when I talk to leadership, I say like, it's not fair that you're going to give them, pizza for lunch, but then be disappointed that they're not producing at the level you want them to in the afternoon because they're sluggish, right? You just gave them junk and expect them to perform at, optimal speed and quality, and it's not possible. So it's really just creating that bridge between why you shouldn't and what it's doing to you. And then offering up ways so that, because again, if you're going to tell people you really can't do this anymore, like this is terrible for you, our brain is going, whoa, like, this is too much. I'm not listening to anything more that she's saying, and I'm already thinking about the pizza I'm ordering after work, right? So
I have to move off of food. I'm so hungry.
Just hungry.
And impulse control for me is probably my biggest issue, which is probably my leading question, because the other part, which is beyond just health, right? Which is just the mindset that you started to speak to as well. I was reading something about the gap between, or not the gap, but the correlation between that and therapy, which is taking care of the mind as well. So can you speak a little bit about those components?
I can't speak to therapy because I'm not a therapist. But there is a mental wellness, huge mental wellness component to mindset shift, right? If I have a fixed mindset, which means I don't think things can change, and then I'm struggling with mental health issues, whether depression or anxiety or what have you, having that frame of mind that this isn't going to get better. I am who I am. I was born this way. There's nothing I can do. That's really, really scary, and it diminishes all hope. With an open mindset, if you're in any type of mental health struggle, then, you will have the belief that, okay, like I'm feeling really bad right now, but it's possible I can come out of this. It's possible I can talk to the right people. It's possible, just opening the door to the possibility. Because when we believe that things are possible, that does create space for hope. And, and it also helps us because there's a direct link between, and again, I know you're hungry, but there's a direct link between food and mental illness as well, right? Because again, our gut, Our signals come from our gut to our brain, which we're recognizing now, where before we always thought it came from the brain to the gut. So when our gut is in constant turmoil and chaos, trying to break down all these non-foods that we're eating, it affects our brain.
It's like, no more Taco Bell.
Yeah, we're well, for more reasons than that. Yeah.
Right,
All the memes.
I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
There goes another sponsor.
You're going to have to sponsor with some healthier places.
Right. Good Life Fitness. So.
But we are absolutely unable to get full clarity and cognitive function when we're full of brain fog and lethargy from the foods that we're eating. So it really is a full circle. Like you have to incorporate all of the things for optimal health. Right?
Do you find that like entrepreneurs obviously very driven? And I'm always really impressed, like when you meet an entrepreneur who's very driven in business, but also driven in fitness and health and all these other things. Because I've always really struggled with that. I find that I can be really driven at work, but like my wife has to remind me to shave. She's like, I think I'm probably. It's not that I don't like shaving. I've never been one of those people who pays attention to the things I'm wearing and like how long my hair is. And I'm usually so focused on work, but I struggle to shift that focus outside, including health and everything else. So do you find that like entrepreneurs working with them, there's a huge ability to like, push something in the right direction with energy, but there's quirks sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. So it really boils down to like, and this is why it's often beneficial for someone who has that type of frame of mind to work with someone, because the last thing that you feel you have capacity for is coming up with your own plan and being accountable to yourself and pushing yourself, right? And so having a plan laid out, like, okay, so tomorrow you're going to go to work, you're going to focus only on work, but here's a couple of things at scheduled times throughout your day that I already know you're available during those brief times that you can do these things.
Yeah.
And it's going to help. Now, you mentioned about shaving and long hair and all of that. I'm not so concerned with the exterior.
Yeah.
It's the interior, right? So we want to make sure that your organs are all in tip-top form. And, and if you've been in perpetual low energy, aches and pains, brain fog, negative thinking along those lines, then, it is going to be really, really hard to talk yourself into doing something else around that.
You talk about accountability. My dog is the one who holds me because I try and do like minimum like 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day, and she will sit by the door and bark because she's like, it's my walk time. So she holds me accountable. So the thing that really helps me get those steps in every day is like, yeah, well, this is for her. I find that easier to say it's for her than it is for me. Which is kind of accountability, I guess. But Are you the same with your dogs?
I am. It's funny because I've got a bit of the brain fog because of the lack of food at the moment. But I like the approach that talks about from a coach, that notion of a coach I'm in your corner to be able to say, here's the times, the exercises, the expertise. We often do that from a podcasting standpoint, where we talk about anybody can do it at home if they wanted to. I have a gym at home. I'm not using it very often. And what's probably missing is somebody saying, you should be using that gym that's down in the basement gathering dust.
Do you know what?
You have a gym in the basement.
I put one
too.
in recently, and I've used it every day for the last 3 weeks, which has been a new breakthrough for me.
Is that your dog that's actually making you do that?
I'm lifting weights for my dog. Yeah, she holds me accountable. So.
He stands next to the weights and barks.
I think it's my kids though, because my 13-year-old son is incredibly athletic. He reads the back of anything before he eats it. So he's one of those kids who doesn't want Prime or any of those drinks that a lot of kids do. He's like, I don't want to put that stuff in my body. He drinks green tea and water. And like sometimes he'll go to a restaurant, his brothers will be like, I want root beer. And he'll be like, I'll just have water, which is amazing. But I'm like, you're 13, you got to let go sometime. It's fine. You can have a treat. But I think that thinking about them and like how healthy the health choices he makes and his younger brothers as well. I think that's the thing that's shifting it for me at the moment is going, I want to be a better example. So I
think Melissa would have just picked up on something that you just said there that talked about the sweet thing as being the treat. And that's the psychology around bad food being
celery is never a treat, Jon.
That's part of mindset.
Oh,
right?
really?
That's how you're framing things. So when you're saying, "Oh, come on, have a treat," right?
Yeah.
You're already setting
you're
setting your body up to seek out that dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
So we need to redefine, and it's like, but what is the word treat? Are you treating yourself to that junk food, or are you hurting yourself?
Yeah.
So you're not. And it's that slight little reframe, right? Like, oh, I'm having a cheat day. Like, who are you cheating? Yourself?
Right?
Exactly. You're cheating on yourself. You just had 5 Monday to Friday of good health and wellness and energy and clear mind. And then on the weekend, you're like, oh, I'm cheating this weekend. I'm going to have all of the food. I'm going to stay on the couch and watch Netflix. And then guess what? Monday morning, you're like, oh, Monday, right? Like, so many people are not loving Monday just for the simple fact that they put everything aside on the weekend, and it's like a frat party inside your body, and then you're expecting Monday to feel just chipper.
Well, this is the challenge on the reward of doing the healthy things. Often the unhealthy things are feeding the dopamine. We're actually getting the rush off of those things. So the challenge. So
I say treat is purely psychological, I think.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, and verbiage, and it sort of then gets hold of, and people are now thinking, I'm going to treat or cheat on have the cheat day. But to me, for activity and exercise is contagious. And so when Rhys talks about all of the activity he's doing right now, is the kids are doing it as well. And you can't not. You just naturally lean in with them. You've got that energy, and off you go. But as we go through those cycles in our life of when am I active and when I'm not, so from social active to the kids active to something else, and trying to build those habits around the lifestyle, I would suspect is part of that challenge. So as you're changing your career. Changing, the kids are out of the house or they're young and not running as much, whatever. The dog is active.
Exactly. But I definitely totally frame like having a big bar of Cadbury's chocolate or a doner pizza as a treat.
I'm so hungry.
Sorry, Jon. But it is definitely that thing of framing it as a treat in my head. And that's something I do. And I think it's like, it's not necessarily feel like I'm rewarding myself. I think it's definitely a comfort thing, though.
Yeah. Well, how comfortable do you feel an hour after you've eaten a donut?
I feel
pizza?
awful.
Yeah, right. So, but this is part of the psychology of it, right? So instead of romanticizing like the chocolate and the doner pizza, you need to take those blinders off and call it out for what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to taste delicious. I'm going to feel like crap an hour later, half an hour later, right? So you need to focus more on the aspect that is not pleasing to you. Because again, we feel crappy. A week later, we don't remember the crappy part. We remember how good it tasted.
Oh,
and
exactly.
I'm hungry right now, and it's Friday, and let's do takeout. And, we get so excited. You're building it up in your mind.
Yeah.
But, we wouldn't naturally get excited over, inedible things
No.
that have the same nutritional quality that these other foods you're eating have.
Yeah, that's true.
So how do you replace that? So if my routine is to go home, have a glass of wine and a bag of chips every night, there's a routine of that, and there's a pleasure in all of it. How do you change that?
So we just start small, right? So if chips are your thing, then let's continue for a little while with chips, but let's pick a different kind, right? So I like to shop in the organic section at the grocery store. I do like chips, and I have them sometimes. So I go and I actually buy the Ruffles Simply brand, just the plain ones. There's 3 ingredients. That's it. I actually store them in the freezer.
It's great. We're back into a sponsor opportunity.
Right?
We're back in, I put them in the freezer, and they're nice and cool and crisp, and and I eat those once in a while.
Frozen
so if someone
chips.
eats, they don't freeze. They just
okay.
get cool and really crisp. Listen, I'm not trying to promote chips here.
I was going to say.
I know, we're getting off
I like
topic.
where Rhys is going because I'm thinking
Frozen chips.
Frozen
I got to
food.
try this. That's my next treat.
And Jon is sitting there hungry, and now all he's thinking about is chips.
Yeah.
So, but if your thing is Doritos or any other kind of, chip, then is there a healthier version of a chip where you're still getting the crunch, you're still having the routine, right? The ritual of doing it. And if you're having a full glass of wine, can you have half that amount? Can you portion it out and do that instead until we eventually switch into different things? And it really does work. But again, you can't do it quickly.
No.
And you can't skip any steps. So it's about, just weaning off of certain foods and changing, right? So, and break the cycle. If your typical thing is to go home and sit and have chips and drink wine, the days are longer now. Could you replace that with going for a walk? Right? Can you, if the sun is shining, can I get out for a 10-minute walk, 15-minute, whatever it is, do that instead. And being out in nature and then taking your deep breaths and feeling the sun on your skin, you're going to not crave those foods as much because you're already going to start seeing that they're not great for you. And when you're feeling great, you don't necessarily want to stop that.
Right. I have a yellow lab that's also trying to change their shape a little bit.
I've met your dog, yeah.
Yeah, I've been feeding her ice cubes, hoping that would help. But it's
not going to work.
It's not working.
Well, it's just. I think usually with dogs, and I found this. I got a golden retriever, and she will like lick the floor for anything she can get. It is that not giving them human food. I found is the big difference. Because she's in good shape.
I'm not sure how I apply this to myself, but
I know.
I appreciate
no human
it.
food for you anymore, Jon.
Have you personally tried the ice cubes?
The ice cubes are terrible. Right? They don't taste like chips at all. There's no salt.
To bring it back to work, one thing I was going to ask was like, especially one thing that I always do is like, you've seen my snack boxes I do. So I'm a
your lunch.
I'm a
It's great.
notorious desk eater. Because I'm trying to make mealtime fit around me being more work. My focus is work. I come to
It's
work
so
to
healthy.
work.
Describe what's in your lunchbox.
My lunchbox is pretty healthy usually, but is that a bad habit? If I'm eating healthy food at my desk and like not making mealtime like a thing, or should I make more of a thing of it? It's in terms of a mental aspect.
There's no should with any of it, right? I love the expression, we're always shoulding all over ourselves.
Right?
And we don't necessarily need to do any one or the other. I'm not strict with calories or timing, other than, the timing for habit purpose.
Yeah.
But if you have food constantly at your access, and then sometimes you don't really know the difference between I'm hungry and need this, or I'm bored, or I'm distracted, so I'm mindlessly snacking. And even if it is healthy or healthy-ish foods, right? We want to give our body an opportunity to rest, so it's not constantly in a state of digestion.
Okay.
Right. And if you said you're busy every day and you're distracted, then chances are a lot of the time that you're eating, you're not in digestion. So you're eating against your digestion, which is then going to cause problems as well. And it could manifest into bloating, into gas, into all kinds of, bodily aches and lethargy and things like that. So I would say, plan it a little bit more. Have your lunchbox. Maybe don't have it on your desk. Keep it in the kitchen. And, and when you start to feel a craving or a little pang of hunger, challenge yourself to go have a glass of water first. Wait a couple of minutes, see how you feel. And if you're still feeling a little bit hungry, then eat something.
Yeah. Jon would like that because he doesn't like the mess I leave. Again, I'm so in the zone that I make a big mess around my belly.
I have to say, I focused in on if you're hungry, just go and eat something. And I'm not sure how to do that right now.
I'm going to torture Jon with more food.
Right.
So in terms of, have you seen evidence of health performance improves, a healthier mindset, healthier lifestyle, than business improvement? Have you seen that firsthand?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There are quite a few clients that I've spoken with that, the first thing everyone seems to be so amazed with is, wow, I have all this energy. You don't necessarily know you don't have energy until you get it.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I could do anything at this point. So it typically, the energy comes and then the motivation comes and then everything from there on out is like you have the capacity, mental and physical, to do more, which, some people think it sounds counterproductive. Like if I'm stopping what I'm doing to do these things for me, it's taking away from the work that I'm doing. But if you are just heads down all day long, you're not getting the best of you, right? And would you want to be better? Would you want to have more energy? Would you want to be more productive and get more out of your day? And at the end of the day, instead of feeling exhausted or like, what the heck just happened? It was such a whirlwind. You get to the end and you're like, wow, that was a great day.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
One thing I found is that since I've started doing my steps, Jon, I have ADHD burnout less, which is
I've been trying to think about this. Is that at times you kind of want to say just sit there and be creative, which is have less energy,
exactly,
which is counterproductive because I think with you're looking for more focus. I think if you're balanced, you have not purpose, but you've got more direction. Where if I'm like I am currently, hungry and wandering and mind is in a fog, it doesn't help with clarity. So the ADHD. Are
you going to go get pizza after this, Jon?
No, I'm focusing on the good, and I'm back to the reward. I guess my question around that is often our jobs require us to sit down and sort of to focus. So it's not about the energy and the activity. So it's not the physical benefit; it's the mental benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I say energy. It's not that you can get up and run a marathon, right? But it's that you're not hitting that 2-3 o'clock wall in the afternoon where you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm doing the head bob, right at your desk. And
I thought that was normal. I thought at around 2 o'clock after you've eaten lunch, you're starting to digest. You're just gonna relax a little bit, take a siesta.
We naturally, so when we wake up in the morning, we are at max energy. And throughout the day, we are going to deplete that. You're going to deplete it a lot quicker by eating foods that aren't nourishing you. And then there's that extra exertion of trying to focus more, of trying to be more engaged. The mental energy that you get as well, again, it's all full circle. So when you do feel that way, you're going to just be more motivated and more inspired to do more and to get more done.
Yeah, I think I feel like that as well. That like the a lot of the time with entrepreneurs too, because you're so fractured in terms of like you're wearing so many different hats too. having that focus and putting it in the right direction, freeing up more of that focus is a big thing, I think, because being able to go, right, I need to do an hour on this, I need to do 2 hours on this, I need to jump on this call, I need to jump on that call. Like John's saying, like we've jumped from one thing to another, and John's like going, well, I can't do this, I need my lunch break. Your instinct is I need to carry on going.
I'm trying to figure out that rhythm, because you're right. In the morning, we're doing things like business development, sales, and marketing in the mornings, and then the afternoon, it's more about admin or ops or finance. Trying to find that balance, right?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to wing that every day, it's going to continue to pose a challenge, right? So you have to plan it. So if you know your schedule the night before, just take a few minutes, look through it, and pack. I know you're resisting this right now.
I am, because it's based on urgency.
Hold on,
right?
yes,
Right?
It is. But if you can do a time audit, a schedule audit for the day before, then you know, like, okay, I don't have enough time that I can sit and eat a full lunch, or that I can eat food that's going to require microwaving and a knife and fork. So then I'm going to choose foods that are more accessible just by hand, that I can quickly eat in between sessions or in between meetings. There's always a way.
I'm a fan of input-output. And the last time I did my 10K run, I think at the 7K, I ran out of energy. And it's common that's a nutrition thing. I was still capable of doing the 10K, but I ran out of something. Interest, maybe? I don't know. But so I am back to your point, which is sort of that balance between the input and output, making sure that you understand what the day's going to look like, and you're planning for what the output is, making sure then you measure what the input needs to be.
Yeah. Not planning is the quickest way to not be able to stick with something and to be successful with it.
This is one of our big recurring themes in this podcast, is that we tend to run off gut a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But you're planning your meetings. They're being scheduled. You're planning your podcast. You're planning all of these things around work.
Yeah.
Right? So you know how to plan, right? So if you plan out how you're also going to take care of you during that time, especially during that time, because you're busy, and that's when we tend to fall off. But here's the thing. If your health catches up with you and you start to suffer, all of this goes away anyway. Right. So you have to take care of you first, and I love the expression. I've seen it a lot on social media lately, like you say you would die for your kids. Would you live for them? Right. And you cannot fully be there for other people in your career, in your personal life, if you're not fully there, if you're not fully well, right? So when you peel it back that way, like, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, you do, but I mean, the other choice is going to get you to burnout. It's going to get you to poor health. It's going to get you on that pre-diabetic list. Like, there's so many repercussions of it. And if you just get ahead of it, then it's way easier.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's
a cost benefit in that.
Well, I know, but there is only two slight red flags for us, which was the consequence. You and I are not necessarily great at mapping things out for consequence. And you did mention the planning piece. We are not fluid. We are not planners.
No.
That's not our core. Our core isn't to plan. Our core is to envision and sort of, what does the future look like? Then the steps to get there is somewhat muddled.
Well, that sounds like a fixed mindset statement.
All right.
She's got you there, John.
Right.
She's got you there.
Right? Because it's that's behavioral. It's not in your core. You're not born that way. You weren't born unable to plan.
I feel like I'm just in a river, though.
You're
we've
making
got
excuses.
the paddle, we've got the kayak, we're all good, and we just need to sort of,
No, you're in the kayak upstream without a paddle.
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah.
So again, it's how you frame the way you think and the way you speak. Even down to the language that you use, whether it's positive or negative language, because you believe everything you tell yourself. If you're telling yourself it's not in my core, then you're never going to plan. Right? Because you've already written yourself off. And it's learned behavior. So with an open mindset, it's possible for you to overcome that and learn and gradually learn little ways. I'm not saying plan your whole week and meal prep on Sunday for the next 7 days. Pick one thing. Write a list of things that are you're struggling with right now in terms of fitting them in. Pick one. Figure out where you can fit it in.
Yeah. I'm busy and my day changes is a cop-out. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that's fair to say. There are, I would assume there are still characteristics that define you as a person, so it's difficult to change. I'm an optimist or I'm a pessimist. So you've got I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert, and so trying to label around those structures, and I know those are like polar opposites to a degree, and then we sort of try to meet in the middle because we're not always just either or. But there are certain characteristics that still qualify us. Impulse control, that's an easy one to be able to adjust. But if you typically look at things negatively, it's difficult to change that to be a positive mindset.
It is,
right?
100%. And there's an acronym for that, actually, ANTS. So it's automatic negative thoughts. We are wired that way. So that's natural. We have to go against that. We have to actively pursue positive thinking. But the quickest way to get there, the easiest way, is to go through neutral thinking, right? So because if you're saying, I hate Monday, and then you just say, oh, I love Monday, and I'm going to keep saying it until I do, like that's just BS, and your brain is not going to believe it. But if you go from I hate Monday to a neutral statement that has no emotion attached to it, it's not negative or positive, it's easier to believe, and it takes away that negative stigma. So a good reframe for that is Monday happens every week, right? There's no emotion attached to that. Yeah, it does. It happens every week. That's a fact. And the more you think that way, instead of waking up Monday morning thinking, God, I hate Monday, right? Because again, you believe everything you tell yourself. And most of what we're believing is just we're making stuff up. We're making stuff up, And again, is Monday hard because you just went really hard on the weekend?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So Friday's not awesome?
Friday, yeah, but Friday is awesome because you say it is.
You're right.
Yeah,
It's 1 and 7, and they're all the same.
To somebody who works Saturday and Sunday, Friday is not awesome.
Right.
So it's all in what you say to yourself.
You're right. I describe Rhys and I from a mindset standpoint when we're both skiing. I don't know if you ski, actually.
I do.
So when we're both skiing through the woods, glade skiing, Rhys will typically look at the path.
You're off-piste.
I'm what?
Off-piste.
I'm off. That was in glacier skiing.
I don't know.
Anyway, back to my point. So
this is an analogy you're getting way too
I know this is very
butchering
difficult.
this.
Thank God we've got a great editor. So for when we're skiing down, he'll actually see the path. He'll see the route, and I'll see the trees because I want to make sure I avoid the trees. When you're learning to drive, they'll actually say, don't look at the obstacles because that's where you're going to steer. So his mindset to be able to get through the trees by looking for the path is the better way to go. So that's, to me, from a mindset standpoint, I'm trying to shift my mindset to ignore that there are trees.
Yeah, but then my problem is I focus so much on that I'm not paying attention to myself a lot of the time, which is, a downside too. Because I think that even when it comes to things like being an optimist and saying I am optimistic, I think there's times I'm not optimistic. There's times when I'm I was awake at 3 a.m. this morning because I had a dream about global politics and affairs that are going on, all the news stuff, and it was a horrible realistic dream. And then I just couldn't. I was in a really negative mindset from 3 till 5:45 when my alarm usually goes off. That's not an optimistic mindset. So it can flip. I think. I don't think that's fixed. I can be negative too. So.
But also, we're confusing optimism and pessimism with just daily thoughts.
That's true, yeah.
Right? We're not fluctuating that much. You can be a very positive person and have a bad day.
Right. That's an emotional response.
Yeah.
Not an attitude.
Yeah.
It's it's not a bad day. I'm optimistic.
But another quick route to burnout and poor health is fake optimism.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's continuously putting all this pressure on yourself to think a certain way, and your body and your mind understands it's a bit phony, right? So that is also perpetuating burnout in and of itself, right?
The other thing I want to think about was so I'm very much, I think the phrase is hardcore or no core. So I gave up video games all cold turkey when I was in my early 20s because I was I want to focus more on progression and career. I find it kind of I was so obsessively into them and wasting so much time that I felt that I could have been doing my job or focusing on my business and everything else I was doing, that I kind of just gave it up cold turkey. And I feel very much same with alcohol. I've just given it up cold turkey. I struggle with the gradual side of things. How do you kind of deal with that?
Well, again, like that's why having a guide
Yeah.
to help you implement that. Like when you mentioned earlier, and I meant to say this earlier, but about the gym in your basement. So I have a number of clients who they have a treadmill or even additional equipment. And so, we want to focus on building a habit first instead of like, if the goal is to lose 20 pounds, like, okay, but let's work on the habit first. So, in the morning, still in your PJs if you want, throw your sneakers on, get on the treadmill and walk for 5 minutes. That's it. And just do that every single day without the thought that, oh, I'm trying to exercise, I'm trying to lose weight. Like, nope, I have this one thing that I need to do and I'm going to get on the treadmill and do that. I've gotten people to do that a number of times and over a period of time. And the accountability, if they're like, I forgot again, I'm like, okay, well now every morning you have to text me. You have to text me that you've done it, and I'm going to trust that you're being honest, and they are, right? So, and that helped, and then eventually you didn't have to text anymore. So, again, it's too challenging on our brains to, if you're an all or nothing person, to then just take baby steps. So you kind of, it does help enormously to have somebody kind of guide you through, but walk you through it as well on the life coaching side, like, I get it. I know if you got the sneakers on, you're going to do an hour, don't, right? Set your timer. It's just for this amount of time. And over time, doing that little bit by little bit, your brain starts to rewire. So if you're an all or nothing person, again, that's not your core, that's learned behavior. You can learn another way. It just takes a little bit of time.
Okay. That's nice. I can appreciate that because I think that if I was going to go, I'm going to go on the treadmill, it would be running as fast as I can for 45 minutes.
Yeah, and this is also why a lot of people fluctuate hugely getting in and out of fitness routines or nutrition because it's like, oh, I'm going home, I'm gutting everything out of my pantry and I'm just going to put healthy food in there, and then 2 days later, they're like, oh, I have to go to the grocery store and get something because I'm ready to chew the walls off or something, and with exercise, people are, I don't have an hour to go do it, so I'm not going to do it at all. 10 minutes, right? I love the book Atomic Habits.
Right.
And, and I think it was a story that James Clear had mentioned a friend of his who had lost over 100 pounds and kept it off. But he started first by getting up, getting dressed, going to the gym. And I think it was 5 minutes or just very minimal that he was doing in there. And then he'd leave. And people, and not caring that people were, what is he even doing? And he did that so often to build the habit. And, like they say, the heaviest weight at the gym is the front door. Right. So again, it all boils down to what you're telling yourself. And again, if you've ever had your sneakers on and you've been in the middle of a workout, it's much easier than you built it up to be before you went and put the sneakers on.
Yeah.
Right.
The thought of putting the sneakers on, you're like, oh, like you will FBI level negotiate with yourself to not do it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's finding reasons.
That's why I like the notion of having somebody that you're accountable to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Often it's not ourselves. It's difficult for us to be self-motivated or accountable to ourselves. And that's what your story earlier about your dog.
Yeah.
Your dog makes you go out for a walk. Right? That dog is always there waiting or getting up early or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out what the thing is that you're accountable to, whether it's a partner, kids, coach, et cetera, right?
Yeah. So for me, getting up, it took probably the better part of a year for me to get into a good habit of, not a good habit. The habit started earlier, but for me to actually look forward to and enjoy working out, it took the better part of a year because my alarm would go off and I'd have to lay there and negotiate with myself. But something I always said that helped me get up and do it was, I've never regretted doing it. Once I do it, I feel great. So I'm not actually excited about the exercise. I'm excited how I'm going to feel afterwards and physically, but also mentally, like that sense of satisfaction. Like I didn't even want to get out of bed and I just increased my weights by 10 pounds. This is so exciting. And so telling yourself that, then that's how you get out. That's how you get out of bed. That's how you choose the healthier food by saying, I will regret the donair pizza. I won't regret, and find fun things to eat that are really tasty and that you enjoy that just are actual food.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I love the notion of reward. what's the outcome, what's the reward of it. And James Clear does talk about it. It takes a long time to get to that end step, but it also means I'm just doing it in baby steps. I'm just small little micro changes in order to be able to get there. Yeah. So I like that notion, but usually for all of us, it is what's the reward? How soon can I see it? So if it's eat a carrot instead of a chocolate bar, what's the reward in the brain? But it's not just that one carrot, and it's not just the one chocolate bar. It's 100 carrots and what that output is, right?
I'm going to bring in the donuts, actually. So last week, I went to the donut store and bought some donuts for the team because it'd been a busy week and everyone was doing awesome. As a treat, which I now feel is a bad word. So
the treat is not a bad word.
Oh, no, so for punishment,
I brought
we're going to
donuts.
go to the donut store.
So obviously, like as this conversation, it kind of gives the idea. Is kind of basically, for us to be good business leaders and to be there to the best we can be for our team and to help our team develop and grow and for the business to develop and grow, we need to be healthy and accountable to the team as well, I guess. So what is the dynamic there in terms of like how much should that influence us in terms of feeling like our health is linked to our performance? So we should definitely take it very seriously, because if we don't and we go on like a downward spiral or it's a health issue, then it could really affect everyone's job security, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in that regard, and again, I mean, you can certainly influence the people around you. It's totally out of your jurisdiction to force people to eat certain foods. But if you are actively bringing in foods that are going to leave people feeling crappy afterwards, sorry, I keep using that word, but it's the only one that keeps coming to mind. But if you're feeling terrible, right, and you know that the donut tastes delicious, but an hour later I feel kind of bad, do I want my team to feel that way? And is there something that I can bring in to show the appreciation for all of their hard work that they will actually benefit from? Something, is there a fruit bowl or something that or just keep fruit around or hummus and just different little snacky foods that are a little better for you, because you really want to look at how you want your team to feel and how you want them to perform. And then, am I bringing them in something that's going to help that or hinder that, right? And you are, as leaders, you are going to be the biggest influence in someone's professional career while they're working with you. And your example is everything. And so if you are taking the stairs, if you are, talking around the office about how many steps you got, if you are continuously, if you are eating foods around people that they're noticing, and instead of shoving it down people's throats, but you're doing things in front of people, you're leading by example, and you're talking about, like, oh, I feel great today. I'm so jazzed. Like, I have so much energy. I can't wait for all these podcasts and meetings. And, so it's really putting everything you're putting out and imagine if, children are following every step that their parents take. They believe in that person, right? So, and this is where a lot of adult bad habits come in, because they copied what their parents were doing when they were young. And so in the professional setting, you want to act and behave and speak in a way that you would want other people to mirror. Right? So it's very important.
It's interesting. We spend more time with people at work in our workplaces than we do with the people that we've chosen to spend our lives with. And so a lot of the behaviors that we see at the workplace, we start to model those and we mirror those. So as leaders, setting good examples in regards to the way we are active, how often we stand up, how much we move around, how much we encourage, all of those things, I think, allows us to sort of model the right behavior. And to the flip side, which is, if we're doing the opposite, it's the same thing. People are going to go, yeah, I don't need to get up. I don't need to move around, or I won't bring my lunch in today, or let's go to the quick place and easy place. We had a treat as well. We had a kegerator when we first moved in here, which is great. At the end of the day, have a drink and off you go. And we made a decision to get rid of it. And here's the problem with most businesses. We actually made a decision to get rid of it, not because of it. It was a reward, it was a bonus, but we got rid of it because of the energy cost. which doesn't mean to me.
But it was the right thing to do still.
But
in a health
I was just
Like physical energy or like the power bill?
the power bill. It was the power bill, not the wrong energy. But once it had gone away, it was like we didn't need it. It wasn't that much of a treat, and it wasn't really that reward. So we made the right decision for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. You know what? Have a water challenge. Have a water challenge with people throughout oh my God, that is the biggest water jug I've ever seen.
Our producer Mina has got a
can I bring in
propane bottle sized.
Can I bring in a prop?
Yeah, you bring the prop in.
If we have an example of, so there is 6 of us in the office today?
Yeah.
And we've got one, she's not going to bring in the prop.
Bring it in so people can see the ridiculous amount of water.
I was going to say 6 of us could probably
Well, that's going to
drink out of that.
That's for a small village.
But I love one of the messages that I like, which is the gamification or the challenges to be able to create something that is, how do we gamify? It's
heavy,
right? Yeah. So drink a water challenge, a stare challenge, a step challenge, right?
I think it hacks my brain, and I think. Yeah, if we can do that as a team, and all the team really buy into it usually and kind of have fun with it. So, I guess thank you for this. This has been really interesting, and like the connection between health and kind of business is fascinating. So, if people would like to know more about you or are intrigued by the work that you're doing, where can they find you?
So my website is melissapike.ca, melissapike.ca. I'm on LinkedIn, same name, and Instagram, Melissa Pike _life coach.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
The best place to find this podcast is wherever you find podcasts.
That's where I'd start.